Fire it up, everybody. This is formerly Dorian's mode, but we're actually trying a new thing. One of my colleagues that I met at Rikers Island, we decided that we work so well together that we are just changing the entire podcast format. So I'd like to introduce y'all to DeMarisa, and the podcast is now known as Mederi Muzik.
Mederi Muzik. Clap
with
it
DeMarisa
up.
and
Clap
Dorian.
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess like to get this rolling, who are you? And let's start from there. So who are you, DeMarisa? And then I'll go after you.
Okay, so who is DeMarisa? DeMarisa is a mom. She is a woman. She is a community organizer. She is a musical healer. She is a spiritual being who is on assignment, journeying on this plane. And she is an advocate for many marginalized populations. That's who she is. Who are you, Dorian?
Yeah, so, as some of the people who have listened to Dorian's Mode at this point already know, but I'll just do it as a refresher. So my name is Dorian. I'm a composer, a piano player, and a music therapist. Very connected with working people, working class people, of many, many demographics. And I'm also very much a strong believer in intersectional organizing. There are people across an entire spectrum of humanity that really should be collaborating together and don't realize that they should be collaborating together because there are some nasty conditions that have been set up for us, quite literally. And, a lot of what I imagine DeMarisa and I are going to be covering is going to be American-centric. However, we're going to learn as we interview people and chat with people and talk about different ideas that there are struggles all around this earth and a lot of people that can really work together. That's kind of our intro. Just to put it out there, so Dee and I started working together at the Fine and Performing Arts division at Rikers Island, and we were both really drawn towards that work. I've heard you say it, Dee, as divine work or
yes, hard work.
Yeah. So could you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by that?
So I say divine work in that I did not intentionally choose it. It chose me. And in kind of saying yes to that assignment, both mentally and just spiritually, and not connected with any particular practice, right? Just like receiving what the universe is saying in a form of discernment. I was drawn to it, but also just a great fit, very impactful in doing it. And it felt good in my spirit. And so that's what I mean when I say divine work. Like I didn't wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to be an arts coordinator on Rikers Island and I'm going to do music. I definitely walked into the profession blindly, knowing that I have a myriad of experience in the realm of art, whether it be fine art, whether it be performing art and just dance. So I didn't really have a direction to go in, but kind of felt intuitively so that there was something that I needed to unlock in this space. So that's how I would explain it. And I think in terms of it being hard work, it became that once, I want to say day one, right? Like when we walked in and really took in a breath of like what Rikers is and how reflective it is of my community, it became a charge. It became a duty to provide great work and opportunities for folks who, you know, who I'm just accustomed to seeing in my daily life. You know, on this journey, I've met folks who I've gone to school with. I've met folks who I know third party. You know, we frequent the same supermarkets. We live in the same neighborhoods. We gone to the same schools. And so, you know, at that point, it kind of was a real representation of the war. And, you know, definitely have my place in it. Yeah, that's what I would say. What about you, Dorian?
Well, you know, it's one thing that we really wanted to cover in this new reformat of Mederi Muzik is that we're addressing spaces of creativity and healing with you know, I want to say marginalized community and justice affected communities. But I almost think that, you know, there's an even bigger space to navigate through. You know, the thing about creative process work is that you know, the human spirit has been utilizing creativity as a way of expression. Like the thing I always say that separated the human being from the other animals was the moment that we started to use our voices for something beyond communication, but actually something on a deeper form of expression, or the moment that we felt our hands touch something and realized that there was a rhythm there, and with some form of intentionality recreated that process. You know, that's really the moment that the human being started to elevate in a different way. And I'm not saying that other animals or other beings are not capable or anything like that. It's just more of a, you know, from my day-to-day experience, is that the human being is consistently elevated. And yeah, the thing about working within the prison industrial complex is that you know, we're really meeting human beings at a human level, because it was actually described in one of my therapy settings with a therapist how I was having difficulty coming to terms with the duality of an individual I was working with, because I found the criminal act that this individual had done. I was so troubled on an ethical level addressing this human being, but I also just met them, you know, and they're this creative, brilliant individual, and there's just so much more to them than this particularly dark space in their mental capacity. And my therapist really put it, it was like, it's almost like you're seeing humanity at its both extremes, and it's all in one circumstance. And so, you know, I've found that the folks that we work with on the inside, you know, a lot of them they have this sort of facade that they've put up as a protective barrier. You know, it's like a trauma wall. It's a way to keep an individual protected by putting up these just, you know, oftentimes ridiculously toxic masculinity like fronts, and you know, it's a way to protect the fragile human being who is inside of these struggling individuals. And it's just that, yeah, creativity has a way of reaching folks in a way that colonialist talk therapy is not necessarily capable of, at least in the initial breakthrough stages. So yeah. Yeah. How about you, DeMarisa?
I mean, I think you unpacked it for me. I would say I believe the drum, right? Just taking to the drum for a minute, has like a unspoken connection to the spirit. And when you include other elements of music, I think they have a power of activating emotion without words. And so for me, that in of itself is why music, right? Is because it's funny because I am always in awe of the reaction or responses that music evokes out of the body, even subconsciously. So much that like I named my son Music. But yeah, and so music to me, it's an unspoken language. It's a universal language. And I'm in my experience within our work, it definitely broke down language barriers. It definitely gave an equal opportunity for folks to process and digest where they were currently, sometimes what they had been through already, and fostered a connectedness where we could kind of strategize on what to do next, which is beautiful when you are servicing folks from different walks of life with different communication styles, with different love languages. I think that too. I think for most, I know there are a few people who just aren't music people, but I would say for most, music is like a love language. And so, when you are into this hard work, the one thing you always want to have at the forefront of the journey or of any practice is love. You know what I mean? And love is multifaceted, right? And so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like there's this really beautiful concept where, if music makes you uncomfortable, or if you're listening to music that you don't like, you're still having an emotional response.
Yes.
It's like, and it tells you about yourself, or it tells you about your community or where you're coming from.
Yes.
Yeah, it's, I one of my favorite incidents inside Rikers was there was an individual who was complaining about the music of the youth of today and how violent it is and how awful it is. And this was literally in the midst of us listening to Give Me the Loot by Biggie, which is literally a song about robbery and like attacking pregnant women to get their jewelry. It's
right.
And by the way, I fucking love that song. Like, it's
right.
It's an amazing song, but it just cracked me up how it was like, all right, man, like, you're listening to music that is literally talking about the things that you're uncomfortable with in the modern music. So maybe there's a generational communication that you're missing out on. And I've always found that, if I find music uncomfortable, like I listen to it like 2 or 3 more times, because you end up learning you learn more about yourself than you do, about, you learn what it is that makes you uncomfortable.
Right. Right. I definitely went through that with Beyonce's Lemonade album. I want to say, was it Lemonade? I want to say it was Lemonade. And so on first listening to it, I was like, oh, this is okay. And then actually have gone through like a traumatic experience. And then hearing those songs, it was almost as if I was hearing it again for the first time. Super mind-blowing. Like, oh, that's what she was talking about. Wow, like I could really relate to that. Like, this is real. And And I think that speaks to what you're speaking to, like maybe I just hadn't advanced in my maturity yet to be able to receive the gravity of the lesson, right? And when I got there, it was almost like she was talking for me. Yeah, but see, that's the beauty of music. It offers just awakening in so many different facets of your life. I can even say like Tupac, the way I listened to Tupac and Biggie as a young person is completely different than the way I listen to it now. It's a lot more critical now. It's almost political education in some regard. And that's how I see it now. Whereas before it was just, they're great lyricists, and I love the metaphoric wordplay and like, yeah.
Yeah, that just on that note, two artists that came to mind that had huge impacts on my own political education. So the first one was one I actually didn't like the first time I heard him, and that was Immortal Technique. And I heard him, a friend of mine showed me him, and I just didn't like it. Like, it was like, I don't know, this is kind of corny. It's a little too like I just don't really get what he's talking about. Fast forward after, being in the military for a little bit and hearing, this guy not using metaphor. He's talking about very direct, like, he's like, it's literally like, hey, the United States Army was basically funded by United Fruit and went down and tortured a whole bunch of motherfuckers in Guatemala. Like, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, the reason it's not metaphorical is because it's like literally history. And like, I was like, at the time, the first time I heard him, I was like so into, the craft of poetry that I didn't really understand that he's actually a poet, but he's not talking about poetic things. And it's like, I wanted to hear beautiful wordplay like Nas, or someone like that. And Immortal Technique doesn't do that. And it's like, he's getting a different point across. And it just all of a sudden, like, it was like, holy fuck, I didn't like it because I didn't understand it. But then the second one is actually Rage Against the Machine. Had a huge impact. Like, I loved them when I was in high school because I was like a big metalhead at the time, listened to a lot of metal music, and Rage was just like this fucking heavy as fuck band. I'm sorry if I'm swearing in front of your kids. I just realized that.
No, they've heard worse.
I just realized. Like, wait a second.
No, they're good. They're in the whip with us. With us, literally.
Excellent. Yeah. But yeah, no, Rage Against the Machine, like, I listened to them because they were a great, like, metal band back in the 90s, and, didn't really understand the lyrics until now. Like, there's a song by Rage that I'm actually, let me pull the lyrics up. It's called Wake Up. It's at the end of The Matrix, which is one of my favorite movies. But like, this song is about COINTELPRO, and I did not get that. I didn't get that as a kid. Like, the first one, it's first lyric, it's, although they try to discredit you, you still never read it. The needle arthritic, radically poetic, standing with the fury that they had in 66, and like you double M Maz, still knee deep in the system shit. Hoover, so talking about Hoover from the FBI. Hoover, he was a body remover. I'll give you a dose, but it'll never come close to the rage built up inside of me. Fist in the air in the land of hypocrisy. So that's literally talking about the United States. Movements come and movements go. Leaders speak, movements cease when their heads are flown, because all these punks got bullets in their heads. Department of the police, the judges, the feds, networks at work, keeping people calm. And then this is what really blew my mind. They went after King when he spoke out on Vietnam. He turned the power to the have-nots, and then came the shot. So it's the moment. Yeah, it's literally talking about the moment that these people start speaking about the poverty level. Like, it's almost like they were like, all right, you're talking about civil rights, we're going to harass you, but like, we'll let that go. Yeah, but like the moment he said, like, started speaking out against Vietnam, they were like, oh, we gotta rip this fucker up. And then the moment he started speaking to the have-nots, then came the shots. So check this out. Second verse, I'm gonna like kind of jump through to the last part. So da, 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 da. Okay, so yeah, several federal men who pulled schemes on the dream and put it to an end. You better beware of retribution with mind wars, 2020 visions with murals and metaphors. There's networks at work keeping people calm. You know, they murdered X and tried to blame it on Islam. He turned the power to the have-nots, and then came the shot. So that's about Malcolm X, and it's the same kind of thing. Like, you know, they FBI literally started giving weapons to folks to get rid of Malcolm X. And in the interlude, they literally read some of the text that was found in FBI documents a couple, years later when they released it publicly. But it goes, Black nationalism may be a brave contender for this position, but should he abandon his supposed obedience to the white liberal doctrine of nonviolence and embrace Black nationalism through counterintelligence, it should be possible to pinpoint potential troublemakers and neutralize them. Like that's actual shit that the FBI was putting out there just in this song by Rage Against the Machine. And so anyways, all of that fucking ramble to say that it took a long time of maturing to really understand that the music is what drew me into Rage, because it was like, it was a metal band, but like mostly POC in the band, and like very hip hop, very punk, like influenced. And they had this really radical message that I didn't really understand when I was 15. Didn't even really understand when I was 25, to be honest. Yeah. So, yeah. Do you have any music that that really impacted you? I know you had said Lemonade.
Lemonade on a more personal level. I'm trying to think. Terms of community, I mean, I've always listened to like the Lauryn Hills. I'm trying to think, like where, I don't know. I'm a little all over the place with it. Definitely a One Mic fan. Nas. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank right now in terms of like what music I would say has galvanized me in the work. But I will say that my relationship with music has definitely evolved. It's always been a part of my healing practice, but I think as an adult, I find value in like the resource, opposed to before it was just like, I know that when I'm angry, I'll put on a song, I'll feel a little better in a while. If I play a playlist, I'll feel a little better in a while. But now it's just like knowing that that's my go-to. Like, it's been a long day. I definitely it's a necessity. Definitely need some music. I've also been increasing my playlist of like 90s and 2000s music. And one, because I'm just an 80s baby, and 90s and 2000s music was music that I had the autonomy to listen to and not listen to, right? But also the feelings and the reminders of like what it was to be young and free and careless. And so I tend to live in that space often because that's what keeps me recharged. So I can't pinpoint a specific song. I'm also an R&B head too, so nobody probably don't want to hear the nonsense that I want to listen to. Now, give me some Trey Songz, give me some Mario, give me some Neo.
Yeah.
And I'm just all swooned, even down to like Escape and TLC. I was also a Spice Girl fan too, growing up.
No shit.
Yeah,
no shit.
My first album that I purchased on my own, my first CD, was Spice Girl, Spice Up Your Life. Definitely. Wow. Yeah. I think my relationship with music has just changed. and I'm always looking for songs, even when working with artists. I look for music that moves me or causes some sort of reaction to with my spirit. That's the music I gravitate towards.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I've always just the connection to music and messaging has been it's just such an obvious thing, the ways, and of course, like, I don't drink anymore, but like, one way that I always think about, like, when you go to a new culture, when you're in a new cultural space, it's like, try the food, drink the alcohol, and listen to the music, and you're going to know way more about the culture than you ever will reading about it or watching a documentary. It's like, eat the food, what resources are around, drink the alcohol, what people do to cope and to party, listen to the music, you hear the actual truth of what's going on. So I just to keep it kind of rolling, since it's our first episode, I was going to ask what is music, but before asking that, I actually wanted to know, like, what do you think the relationship trauma has on the populations that you and I work with, and what is that connection to trauma and creativity and human beings?
Yeah. I mean, I think for, people of color, especially, trauma has become a big portion of our everyday lives. Sadly, just the systems, the ways of the world right now leave us extra vulnerable to trauma. Down to what we eat, down to our options, down to where we work, down to how we're treated at work, down to our opportunities of advancement at work, down to the resources that we have when we're parenting children, down to, the justice system breaking up our homes. There's just so many layers of trauma. And then we didn't even unpack, like, generational trauma. So stuff that we were just born into anyway. That all go back to just like slavery, like we just have not healed. I think like music for some is the Red Bull, or like the vitamin C, vitamin D, and that, like, the multivitamin to kind of give you the energy to endure. For some, it's an outlet. And I think art in general, it's like that vitamin supplement. It gives you enough outlet to get rid of the stuff you just can't take with you to be able to journey in these spaces. It helps you process the stuff that keep you stagnant, but you got to kind of understand to move forward. And I would even say, for some, it gives them a purpose in a world that is constantly demeaning and constantly undermining talent and constantly blocking out spaces where one can be themselves or reach self-actualization or just be expressive. And just kind of in a spirit of like just slavery and like freedom, it's the thing you can take with you. You know what I mean? It's like a tool that you can take with you. Right? That's my thought.
Yeah, it's, I always think about, you can't address trauma without being politically engaged. And, it's like a joke in like the world of trauma experts, but, if we took into account trauma with psychological disorders, the DSM would just be one page.
Yep.
And it's there's transgenerational trauma that is just, it's so apparent with so many people. You know, the folks we work with and listen to, you know, their intellect is oftentimes so high, but then their emotional coping skills are so stunted,
non-existent sometimes.
yeah. And it's just, you know, it comes from, I mean, you were just saying, you know, like the food that people eat and the environment that people are born into, and it really creates this ongoing cycle of pain and agony. And you know, so like I'm somebody who has been diagnosed with PTSD, and it's like, number one, it was just very affirming, you know, to actually get, you know, a doctor, to have multiple doctors like actually look through my case and look through my life and just be like, oh yeah, you have PTSD, like, right, you know, you should be treating this. And it really impacted just self-care in so many realms, but it also has made it a little exhausting because it's like there is just constant maintenance that has to be done. And, you know, we look at like my daughter, for instance, and it's just like, she doesn't have trauma yet. There's probably some transgenerational trauma in there just by nature that I'm her father. You know, but how do we address it early on, you know, at this stage? But to get more into it, you know, right now, the evidence is showing that trauma coping skills, one of the major keys for coping through trauma is actually community engagement and expressing the trauma. And I actually just read a thing where it's from the Judith Lewis Herman book on trauma and recovery, where she was citing how there was a study done with a whole bunch of people who had been diagnosed with PTSD and had formed a sort of a collective healing group. And one thing they actually found was that life got almost more difficult in some ways because they were actually addressing their trauma and standing up for themselves, which is something I think you and I have experienced in our in our work. You know, when it's like, wait a second, like y'all are not going to fucking take advantage. And by the way, like we're not talking about the incarcerated people. We're talking about administration.
Word.
Yeah.
Word. But the record reflect.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, you know, it's that kind of thing where, you know, you start standing up for yourself and people don't actually like you to stand up for yourself. But the irony is that, you know, they're probably suffering from trauma too, but it's unaddressed. So they're acting like a fucking fool. And yeah. So anyways, it's just, you know, trauma is a political issue because, you know, look at the way that, you know, that your people have been and continue to be treated. You know, let's look at, you know, any veteran who's ever gone overseas. You know, that war is a political issue. Look at domestic violence. That is a political issue. You know, the very fact that there was a Me Too movement, you know, it's like that was about power dynamics. And so trauma is inherently political. And if you are not actively being political, you are still being political, but just not on the right side.
Right, not in a helpful way.
Yeah. So, you know, I got two more questions to just kind of get through this first episode so we can, you know, establish some shit. But real talk, what what is music?
Music is my son. No. That's what music is. Nah, but it is. Music is my son. Music is the center of my world. Music is my grounding piece. It's my talking piece. It's my spirituality. It's my duality. It's my permission to be my alter ego, my non-earthly self. It's that chord you always talk about. What is it called, Dorian?
Which
chord? Where the pain is? The chord where the pain is.
Not a chord, it's a note. It's the blue note.
No, the blue note, yes.
Yeah.
Music is the blue note of life. It's that space in between that like you can't name. It's where the pain is, but it's also where the triumph is too. You know, it's where the rejoicing is. It's your permission. Music is your permission. That's what it is. It's the validation. It's like everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give two different perspectives on what I think about what music is. Three. What's up?
I said, come on, Dorian.
Yeah. So the three definitions. First definition is music is DeMarisa's son.
Yes.
No, but I'll give it sort of like a technical definition and then more of a spiritual definition, or at least a spiritual identity. So my technical definition is that music is any form of organized or expressive sound through interpretation of human intervention, which is probably the most Dorian fucking thing you're gonna hear me say today. But yes. But the way that I think about it is that, you know, when a bird is singing, the bird on its own terms is not necessarily making music. A bird is communicating to other birds, or you know, it's using it as a practical sound. Whereas when it's the human, and I'll actually change it to sentient intervention, but when a sentient being hears the bird and interprets it as music, it becomes music. So it's, you know, a bird is not necessarily making the singing sounds for musical purposes. It's for communication. Whereas, you know, I literally open my window up and just listen, you know, to birds, and it puts me in a state. So that's my like technical answer. But on a more spiritual answer, you know, personally, it is my spiritual practice. You know, I kind of joke that I'm a musical Taoist or a musical Buddhist, or, you know, something in that realm. But one thing that I found so interesting is when asking the question to folks that we're working with who are incarcerated, or with some of the dance people that I work with. I teach a class at the Martha Graham School, their Music for Dancers class, and I always ask the question, what is music? People who do not do music in a, you know, capitalist form of professional will I will say, consistently define music as it's something from within. It's something you connect that's bigger than yourself. So it's the sort of cosmic energy.
Come on.
Yeah, it's so wild because, you know, like we'll hang out with Crips, we'll hang out with Bloods, we'll hang out with, you know, people who are in protective custody. We'll hang out with modern dancers or ballet dancers, and you ask that question and you get the same answer, which is music is something from within, but it's something bigger, and it's a connection of within to that bigger thing. And, you know, like the reason I put the technical definition out first is because, like, you know, I do like to think in that way, But on the flip side of it, that is an answer that I learned and like shaved and crafted to get to, versus when I was a kid and getting into music had nothing to do with that. It was about that inner connection to something larger. So that's what I think music is. And that's actually why I think music has healing capabilities for mental health in certain regards that that talk therapy is just not quite able to access.
No, I mean, there's also just no judgment in music.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Have you ever listened to a song and felt ashamed?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I've never listened to a song. I'm not saying that there's like, you can't get consciousness from music, like clarity, right? So I've definitely listened to a song and been like, dang, I did that. Or dang, I can relate. Or, probably brought me back in touch with my younger self, my heyday. But even in that, it's a two-sided relationship with yourself. It's a relationship with your conscious meeting your subconscious. And so to me personally, there's no judgment there. There's no real judgment there. Maybe some processing, but like, you're not ready to throw the book at yourself for some shit you heard in a song, right? It's just like, it's an opportunity to reflect. And I think that's the beauty of it. It's the beauty of it. You can be imperfect in music.
I think just to clarify what I was saying in response to that, when you asked if I ever felt judgment, and it was like, actually, the music never caused that. That was me judging myself. It's like the music may have opened that
portal,
passageway. Yeah, that passageway, that portal. But it's not. The music itself didn't do that. Music just shed light on my own being.
Right. And that's the beauty of it. Music is the one space where you're not going to find judgment. Music and babies.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Well, it's so, there's, do you know the band, the Insane Clown Posse?
No.
So they're, I don't think you'll like them. They're really, really, they're a horrorcore like hip hop group from Detroit. And they're another group of white rappers, not Eminem, but skill level. We'll just say skill level as MCs is like the antithesis of what Eminem's skill is. They're not very skilled dudes, and they wear this ridiculous clown makeup. And
not the clown makeup.
Yeah. Well, so anyways, this is an exercise I give to students, which is find music you hate and listen to that music for 4 days straight, and then decide why you hate it. Like, explain, it's like really get to know it. So anyways, I did that to myself with the Insane Clown Posse, because it was like, I don't get it. Like, I do not get this music. And the reason I'm bringing this up is after listening to it for 4 days, I started to realize that it wasn't making sense to me, because it wasn't about my community. And in fact, it's from a part of my community that I'm like almost ashamed of, because it is literally targeted at poverty level, low income, urban white folks. And that's the entire messaging. And when I actually started to listen to the songs and the messaging that they're talking about, it was like, yeah, like their lyrics are ridiculously stupid, and like the gimmick is absurd, and like the beats are not good. However, like they're talking about domestic violence and the problems
so
with it. They're talking
impactful.
Yeah, and it's just like it just as we were talking about a moment ago, it's like the reason I had the reaction I did was because it's like, oh, this is about the white people that I like have issue with. Like, that were my own classism. Like they're the people who are a class below me, and where I can empathize almost with folks of other demographics. Like if it's my own demographic, I still have this shame, and it was like a big eye opener, because it like made me go, okay, whoa. Like you just did the thing that you said you're never going to do, and you're still doing it at this unconscious level, to the point where when, asking your own question, what music do you hate? This is the music that came up. And yeah, so like I listened to it with some friends, and like, it was one particularly about domestic violence. And my friend literally looked at me and he was like, man, I got to be honest, I don't disagree with this at all. It was like, yeah. And so like, it was like, yeah, the we're looking at it through the wrong lens. Like it's like, yeah, the aesthetics aren't aimed at people like me. Yeah. It's not aimed for people like me, but it's like, but the message I'm on board with.
True. Right.
Yeah.
I hear, don't shoot the messenger.
Exactly that. It's don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang, music is just so awesome.
I mean, they have like just
thank you.
So there's let me just like find these lyrics here. They have a song. This song is about the Confederate flag. It's called Confederate Flag, and it's by the Insane Clown Posse. And it goes, I'm in an old station wagon deep in Alabama, wipe the sweat out of my eye, cock the hammer. I see a pickup truck with a rebel flag window, a skinny redneck with one of his kinfolk. I pull up alongside and blast the passenger. Blood, feathers, and bones, a fucking massacre. I kept shooting, hit the driver. He fell in the horn, stuck, threw a Molotov cocktail and blew up the truck. I say, fuck your rebel flag. Like, I actually don't disagree with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say, fuck your rebel flag. That represents a hateful sense. I say, fuck your rebel flag. It's if it's in your back pocket, I'm aiming my rockets. I say, fuck your rebel flag. That's what you want to wave. I'll stick you in your grave. I say, fuck your rebel flag. Stick the fucking flag right up your F hole. But yeah, like, yeah, rednecks call it pride for white pride for slavery. It sickens my gut. I see that flag as a challenge that you want to fight. I don't care who it offends. You say it's your right. Well, it's my right to sock you in your dead lips. Put a foot on your neck until you eat my dick. No matter where you live, you should hate that flag because it represents evil bigots. Tell them, Shags. So it's like,
yes,
like it's, the lyrics are not exactly poetic, and if you actually, but like I don't disagree with the message at all. Like
real.
Yeah,
definitely.
There's a lyric. I mean, just to show you like some of the like corny rhyming, but it says I turn a redneck into a dead neck.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, cut the head off a chicken, get your ass a kicking. So, redneck fucking meth head, tuck you in your fucking deathbed.
Oh Jesus! Yeah, we're gonna leave that where it is.
Yeah. So
key for effort.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the thing. It's like I don't disagree with like putting that message out into the community they're reaching out to.
Right.
It's like
right. Because it's relatable.
Well, and that's a group that's susceptible to bigoted symbology, and they don't even know. They just don't even know that they're being played, and so yeah, like I don't know. Yeah. Of course, our first episode, I brought up ICP just to make everyone uncomfortable, but
sorry guys. Not sorry, guys.
Yeah. So let's finish it off with one last question.
Okay.
So what is your philosophy, or like what is your code of ethics?
What is my philosophy? What is my code of ethics? I think it is, so first, always grounding myself with Asada, right? It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Always, that's my grounding piece. Secondly, I guess it's a bunch of quotes. Secondly, two men standing in a burning house must not stop to argue. And I would say third, one benevolent adult has the power to change the trajectory of a child's entire life. And I think those three things summarize my work, right? Like, this is not a choice as a person of color. It is not a choice. It is the only option, right? Is to do what's right morally. It is to fight for equality for my people. And it is to give whatever resources, whatever talents, whatever gems I have, whatever wisdom I have away. And the other part is, you know, if we're infiltrating, if we're operating within a system together, we must never be distracted enough to fight amongst one another or to be against one another. And to me, that's not about color. It's not about culture, right? I think our situation was a real example of, like, you can just be two people lost in the system, you know, but solidarity is most important. When something is wrong, when something is harmful, when something is not conducive to your mental health or the mental health of others, you owe it to yourself, but you owe it to the larger community. You owe it to your legacy to do something about it. And I think the last, you know, in terms of like mentorship, I've learned on my journey the importance of having people to journey with. And so I'm thinking that in life and through music especially, it's an opportunity to journey. And you just should always be ready to journey, because sometimes your next level of self-actualization is on the other side of that journey. So you owe it to yourself, being your greatest self, but you also owe it to the community, and you owe it to the universe and the energies that keep you going and thriving to always be ready to journey. And I think that's what I live by. You know, today, a gentleman who I was servicing in Rikers Island found me on Facebook and called and was like, hey, you know, how can I get some supports? Like, I need services. And that is big, you know, for me to have been in a space not very long and impact people to the point where even after closing that chapter in their life, that one of the things they took with them is a memory of me. That is a testament to the work, right? And I think, you know, but it also speaks to the journey. And I think a lot of people go into this work wanting to fix people, heal people, but also hold each other accountable, like give some accountability. And sometimes it's just loving somebody through their tough times. Sometimes it's always meeting people where they are. And it's understanding that, like, some stuff is not a 24-hour turnaround. Some things, 6 sessions ain't going to be enough. And you got to be okay with that. Yeah. So that's my thought. That's my philosophy, if that makes sense.
It does. Is that individual still inside?
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow. So you had that much of an impact on them.
Yes. He actually remembered Hala, which is the organization that I do a lot of work with. He remembered me talking about Hala. So he hunted Hala down on Facebook and has been writing them messages all week to get in contact with me.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, it's so, yeah, you know, just to answer that question as well, I got, you know, kind of like my tenets and my values, and, you know, my tenets are empathy and accountability, because, you know, you can literally meet people where they're at, and you can also simultaneously hold people accountable for their actions. It's as two individuals here with trauma, obviously we understand the empathy of having trigger attacks and panic attacks and all those different things, but we also realize we have to hold ourselves accountable. It's not a freebie to go and treat people badly. And when we do, we gotta own up to it. I have really had to be accountable with engaging, ways I've engaged with my wife in the past, specifically due to trauma. Just being ultra defensive about things, or like things that she clearly was not intending to be harmful or hurtful, but I just took it that way because I was triggered by something. And I'm also trying to make sure to hold myself accountable with my daughter. But it's the same thing with a lot of the folks we work with inside. There are so many people that they're struggling. They're in their journey, but it doesn't mean that it's just cool with whatever they may have done to another human being. But it also I'm kind of. Oh, go ahead.
No. Go. I'll jump in.
I was just gonna say. I mean, that's one of the issues with the United States is I don't think the culture is willing to hold itself accountable. It's. I mean, how long have we? I mean, we committed a genocide, literally. And then we kidnap people. We wanted to enslave the people that lived here. When we realized that they knew the land better, we genocided them and kidnapped other people and brought them here instead, to disorient. Yeah. And, that it's still, the accountability still has not been followed through with.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were gonna say.
I was gonna say I was having a conversation with my mentor today, Corey, and we were talking about how society, just healing with our families, and like how you can't really say that you're good and you're healed when like your family is just still caught in mad matrices and still mad fucked up. And how it's important for us to heal collectively. And we got into the topic of like how us, especially as a people of color, but just society too, view formerly incarcerated people and chemically addicted people. And how we harp on those things and alienate those people and force them to live in shame. But he was saying those are like low-hanging fruits in the grand scheme of like the ills of our community. They're, to be honest, in one ways, the victim, right? Because all of those are byproducts of systems of oppression. Like they're all victims of crime generative factors, right? Mm-hmm. Let's be real. And that's even down to the most egregious offense, right? Like don't want anybody to be trigger warning, but like, even if we're talking about folks who have committed some sort of sexual assault, right? A lot of those things come from untreated mental illness or abuse, right? One of those generational curses. And we definitely talked about how, as a derivative of slavery, like those are things that people of color just don't talk about because you can't. Your family has been broken down and watered down so much that you don't really want the police coming in getting Uncle Tom or Uncle Joe. Like you don't want the police coming in to get them because you don't want to surrender your family to the punishment system, even though Uncle Joe did something really bad, right? And so that said, penalizing and not saying like, and definitely not justifying, but also not judging. Because Dorian and I, as professionals who have built really good, close bonds with folks and relationships with folks inside, find the need to constantly say, like, we're not excusing anything that people did, but like, I'm not excusing it, no, because I don't get the right to. That's for the victims of the crimes. That's for, the person, the individual to excuse themselves for or not. But what I am saying is lean into that humanity.
Yeah.
Because harping on those people, that's low hanging fruit.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like, yeah, it's they said it at that event yesterday. Stop blaming the victims.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's violence is violence. With me. Yeah. Violence
but even
violence.
The fact that we feel like we got to give that disclaimer every time, like, yeah, we all know that violence is violence, right? And like harm is harm, and like no discredit to anybody who has lost someone in the war, but understanding that we're at war too. We're at war.
Yeah,
exactly. These are things that were planned to happen when a lot of these young people were in their parents' stomachs before they were even a thought.
Yeah, exactly.
And we gotta hold accountability equally in the same way that we are, enforcing incarceration, and we are, rallying against gun violence. We also need to be talking to legislature about the conditions of communities too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right, because that's the real fruit. That's the root of the tree. That's the root of the tree, is the communities that people are growing up in, right? And so on that, I'm gonna end because I'm about to get my Sada bag. I feel myself going. I was channeling my Sada energy.
Yeah.
Don't be quiet.
Yeah. So I guess to finish on my end is, the three words I use for my values is service, truth, and nuance. And
yes,
the reason why it's actually in that order is, service. The goal is to be of service. That's how I think human beings find meaning, is being in service to others. A spiritual practice. Reason why we talk about spirituality versus religion is religion's an organization. Spirituality is a verb. That's the way you are. That's how you communicate. That's your action words. And so I would rather be in service to folks than to be in disservice with folks.
Yes.
And inaction is disservice. But secondly, the reason I think of truth as the second point is truth is not an objective reality. And, sometimes people don't even know that they're lying to themselves yet. And so, you're going to hear lots of just complex perspectives of reality. I'm not going to say one thing, just to say it. We're never going to say specifics about people we work with. We're more going to talk anecdotally and change names and not give specifics. Right. But there's an individual that we worked with, older individual from I'll just say like the medical unit, who is a person who you could just tell that they were not telling the truth, specifically about their situation. However, this person's also is very much fighting a battle because they actually think, and I actually agree to some extent, that what they did that got them into the incarceration system was protecting a family member. And, so it's like, of course, like this person's a good person, so they don't really have the skill set of lying. So they're not very good at it. However, they know that if the facts of the matter come out of the situation, they're going to go away for a couple of years, which they don't want. And I honestly don't even think they deserve it. But, you know, the point is that, you know, truth is secondary to service, because truth doesn't really matter.
Come on, Dorian.
Yeah. In the human to human. Yeah. It just doesn't matter. But then, you know, the third part is nuance. It's like, there's nuance to all of this. You know, we were talking about, you know, people who've committed sexual violence, you know, they're often victims of sexual violence themselves. And there's just, you know, so a person can both be a perpetrator and a victim all at the same time. Yeah, there was an individual I was working with who, you know, lost all their income. I'm not sure exactly what they did, but they lost all their income at the pandemic. And this individual and some friends basically decided to hold up a liquor store to get some money, and none of them had any experience. So they were like really bad at robbery. Like they literally weren't good at it, and they got caught immediately. And now they're all, you know, they've been in jail for a year and are probably going to go upstate. And it's just, there's a lot of nuance to it, because it's like, yeah, sure, motherfucker committed robbery. Like, I get that. However, you know, what were they doing the robbery for? Like
right.
What did they need? What advantage did they see of doing something like that? It was to provide for their fucking family. Like, right. So
in some way. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and that's the part we gotta, you know, that's the part that we gotta get to. Is like, why are people having to commit robbery to provide for their families?
Exactly.
Right. Like, where are we failing folks? But I definitely feel like that's a episode in of itself. Mm-hmm. Word.
Yeah. So, you know, we're in the midst. Yeah. We're in the midst of setting up our Patreon account. You know, I don't know if by the time this drops, it'll be up yet, but you'll find it in the show notes, the info, no matter what. You know, it'll be put up there. Again, my name is Dorian Wallace, and
I am DeMarisa.
Yeah. And we are the, I guess, creative directors of Mederi Muzik. Mederi means to heal, and music means whatever the fuck you want it to mean.
That part. Yes, definitely. And thank you for journeying with us. This is day one of many, episode one of many. We're going to have some great guests to come in and just chop it up with us, get in the whip. Y'all going to hear me constantly say get in the whip. That means that you on board with us. For anybody who doesn't know. So we're going to definitely have some people get in the whip with us and give some great wisdom. And we're going to talk about some really good stuff.
Yeah. And you're going to hear, especially me, get uncomfortable and sheepish, and then DeMarisa say, "Shut up, Dorian, just say your thing." And then
yes, definitely.
But yeah, this is not only is this going to be educational regarding, you know, some of the topics we cover, but it's also educational in the way human beings should act with other human beings, and how to hold yourself accountable. Because you know, I'm gonna say this to, you know, my fellow white folks who are going to be listening to this is, you know, y'all got work to do. We all do. But we all do. If you're not working on yourself, like, things aren't going to get better. Like, you know, and
understanding that if it doesn't get better, it hurts you too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think that's the part. It hurts you too. We need this world to be better and equal and fair for all of us, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's just, on so many levels, the unbalance of it. It's costing us all to live uncomfortably and to be unhappy and just so many other things. Mm-hmm. But also just like human to human, we're all humans, right? Mm-hmm. And so at that basic level, we're just going to continue to be unbalanced. Yeah.
So with that being said, we are Mederi Muzik, and catch you next time.
Stay tuned.